Developing right now on Morning News Now, former Prince Andrew out of custody but not in the clear. The ex-royal released hours after his arrest on suspicion of misconduct while in public office. Now the investigation continues into his friendship with the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Reaction from Andrew's brother, King Charles, who says the law must take its course, and from President Trump.
It's a shame. I think it's very sad. I think it's so bad for the royal family. It's really interesting because nobody used to speak about Epstein when he was alive, but now they speak. But I'm the one that can talk about it because I've been totally exonerated.
We're going to take you to London as the fallout grows. Also developing, the search for Nancy Guthrie now stretching into day 20. Investigators zeroing in on two key pieces of evidence gathered from her Arizona home. As local officials face scrutiny over how the case is being handled, we will bring you an update from Tucson. Plus, we're tracking hazardous weather across the U.S. On the West Coast, a powerful snowstorm delaying recovery efforts following that deadly avalanche near Lake Tahoe. And in the Midwest, millions of people bracing for possible tornadoes. More on the conditions and your weekend forecast. And Team USA looking golden. Star figure skater Alyssa Liu completing her Olympic comeback at the top of the podium. And the women's hockey team taking gold after an overtime thriller. We're going to have the highlights as we enter the final days of these winter games. Good morning. Good to have you with us on a Friday. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment. We begin this hour with the fallout from Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's unprecedented arrest. The former prince and brother of Britain's King Charles was released last night by police pending further investigation. He was arrested earlier in the day yesterday on suspicion of misconduct in public office. This morning, for the second day in a row, police are searching Andrew's former Royal Lodge residence. It's part of their probe following allegations Andrew appeared to send government documents to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. When Andrew was a UK trade envoy, Andrew has previously denied any wrongdoing in relation to Epstein. In a few moments, we're going to hear from a UK criminal defense lawyer, Paul Britton. Before that, let's get to NBC News reporter Matt Bodner. So, Matt, walk us through what's likely to have happened to Andrew when he was in police custody yesterday and then his subsequent release. Do we know where he is today?
Morning, Joe. Well, Andrew was in police custody for 11 hours yesterday. We don't have a great deal of insight into what happened there. It may have just been a very standard booking and some questioning. So, we need to wait to hear more about that. What we did see, the former prince was pictured in the back of a vehicle leaving the Norfolk police station last night. And not long after that, Thames Valley Police released a statement saying that the man that they had arrested earlier was released under investigation and that searches of his property in Norfolk had ended. Local photographers later captured Andrew returning to his home in Sandringham, where he was that's where he was arrested earlier yesterday. And there's been no further update today from police. That said, as you mentioned, there were unmarked vehicles and plainclothes officers seen arriving at Royal Lodge, that is in Windsor, and searches are ongoing at that property. Now, while Andrew was in custody yesterday, one thing we did see happen, and you mentioned this as well, King Charles released a statement addressed to the British public directly, in which he said, quote, "The law must take its course." Joe?
So with the search continuing today, as you just mentioned, do we know exactly what it is they're investigating and what it is they're looking for right now?
So Andrew is under investigation for suspicion of misconduct of public office. Thames Valley Police arrested him after saying that they were looking into allegations that Andrew had passed confidential materials to Epstein while he served as a UK trade envoy. Now, Andrew served in this role from 2001 to 2011, and in 2010, at least according to documents released by the U.S. Department of Justice, he appears to have sent Epstein government reports from trips he had taken to Vietnam, Singapore, and China, and he also allegedly had contact with business associates of Epstein's while on those trips. So the investigation is likely looking for additional documentation, other forms of evidence pertaining to those claims. And so far, there is not any indication that any of this is related to allegations of sexual abuse that have also been levied at Andrew.
And Matt, as we saw, President Trump was asked yesterday about Andrew's arrest and whether we could see similar actions for Epstein associates here in America. What did he have to say about that?
Well, the president lamented Andrew's arrest. He seemed to be concerned about the reputational damage faced by the royal family. Now, take a listen.
I think it's a shame. I think it's very sad. I think it's so bad for the royal family. it's a very, very sad, to me, it's a very sad thing. When I see that, it's a very sad thing to see it. It's really interesting because nobody used to speak about Epstein when he was alive, but now they speak. But I'm the one that can talk about it because I've been totally exonerated. I did nothing.
So it's been interesting, Joe, to look at the public and political reaction to all of this here in the UK. And it's hard to imagine that this is the end of it. The outrage seems quite unanimous. And again, this is just the start.
Yeah, we know the pressure's building still here in America. All right, Matt Bodner, thank you so much. Let's bring in Paul Britton, Managing Director of Britton and Time. That's a British legal firm, to get us some legal analysis. Thank you for joining us. You can help us understand some of the differences between the UK and US when it comes to the law, starting with the fact that, Andrew, he was questioned by police yesterday after being what they called released under investigation. Help us understand what that means and what it tells us about where things stand right now.
So, I mean, if we go one step before that, I mean, what normally happens with clients, criminal defence clients in the UK, is that the police invite them to come in on a voluntary basis. The police here have skipped that stage and they've gone straight to an arrest at 8 o'clock in the morning and held him for 11 hours. I have to say 11 hours is a relatively short time for these sort of cases. I suspect that he has given a no comment interview and not really been too cooperative with the police in their investigations or what's been put to them. He then has been released under investigation. What that means is there's likely to be no bail conditions. It indicates that the case isn't over. They're still investigating. In the UK, much like in the States, we look at, or the police look for evidence. They go to the premises. They will be seizing things like laptops, mobile telephones. They'll be going down those devices and looking for more evidence to say that Andrew may have sent information to third parties that he ought not to have during his time in public office.
How serious is this allegation, misconduct in public office, especially in relation to the allegation he appeared to send these government documents to Epstein? Tell us more, how you prove that. What could the punishment be if convicted?
Well, that one to start with, the punishment could be life imprisonment. Over the last couple of decades, we've seen MPs get anything from 3 years to 10 years in prison. So the severity is quite high. The legal test, much like the States, we have a common law system as well as statutes that are passed through Parliament. This is a common law offence that has evolved over the centuries and more recently in the last 20 years, really. It's fourfold. Whether or not he was in public office, I think that's an easy test to satisfy. The second one was the misdemeanor very closely connected to that role in public office. In this case, it's documents that ordinarily wouldn't have come into Andrew's possession without being in office, and he has sent those to third parties. The third thing is that has to have been done willfully or negligently. So he has done it knowing what he's doing, or he might say that he didn't know that it was the wrong thing to do. And the third thing is whether or not it's serious. I mean, if these documents contain things like national secrets or security or even the strategy of what England's doing in the world, then the seriousness test could also be satisfied.
From a legal standpoint, being a member of the royal family, does that afford Andrew any kind of different treatment or privilege?
Well, I mean, this was very topical yesterday, and actually what we've been talking about in the run-up to this is Andrew above the law? Is there a two-tier system? I think the arrest, and as I said earlier about skipping the voluntary basis to come in under caution, kind of indicates that the police will make arrests to anybody, doesn't matter who you are in public life. And also a clear message to the public that he's not above the law. The only things that I found a bit odd about it is they came at 8 in the morning. They normally come much earlier than that. And he's been released after just 11 hours. Normally it's 24 hours. And the police in this country can hold you up to 4 days if they wanted to.
Paul Britton, very helpful analysis. Thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. In Arizona, it is now day 20 of the search for Nancy Guthrie, the mother of our NBC News colleague, Savannah Guthrie. Investigators still have not publicly identified a suspect or a motive in her disappearance, but we know authorities are following a number of leads. That includes unknown DNA found at Nancy's home, also this surveillance video which captured a masked man on her porch the night she was abducted. Hundreds of people, from investigators to everyday residents of Tucson, are doing whatever they can to try and find Nancy. Now, even people from the other side of the U.S.-Mexico border are joining the effort. NBC News Chief Justice and National Affairs correspondent Kelly O'Donnell joins me now from Tucson with more on all this. Kelly, good morning. We're waiting on the results of that DNA analysis. What else is happening with the investigation right now?
Well, certainly the focus is on those items that are most associated with the known abductor. When we see those images at the front door, we know there's the backpack that can be traced to a Walmart purchase. We know investigators are trying to identify the weapon, the holster, clothing, also doing work to try to determine was there a cell phone in this area through some very tedious and laborious work, but it can be very effective to identify cell phone numbers that may have been right here in the area around the Guthrie home. Those kinds of steps are going forward. The work to do the mixture of DNA is certainly time-consuming and delicate for investigators because that means more than one person's DNA is combined in a mixture that is inside the home. They don't say where. That's one of the details they want to keep confidential. But that work could be very instructive for investigators if it identifies Mrs. Guthrie and potentially the suspect. So some of that work will take time. I know it's been 3 weeks and people are anxious for answers, but work is continuing.
Kelly, among the many questions that have been raised, one is whether Nancy could have been taken across the U.S.-Mexico border. What are we learning about any cross-border collaboration when it comes to the search?
Well, this has been going on right from the beginning because when the FBI got involved, they, as a standard part of their investigation, began to work with the Border Patrol, work with authorities in Mexico because they have regular liaison relationships with them to make them aware of Nancy Guthrie as a missing person. And then later, when the images of that suspect at the front door became public, to make sure they have that information so that if there was any border crossing, any information that they could detect, that could be a part of the investigation. No indications yet that has happened, but it gives you a sense of the scope and the scale of this investigation. Also, the number of tips. We're into the tens of thousands of phone calls that have come in to both Pima County Sheriff and the FBI. That is a challenge, certainly. And a private sector company is trying to help go through that material to help law enforcement prioritize. And they're also sending out a message to say to those who want to call in, don't call with a theory, don't call with a suggestion. Try to be discerning about providing information that might actually move the investigation forward. Joe?
Some good advice there. All right, Kelly, thank you so much. Turning now to news out of Washington, where the Supreme Court could issue a major ruling as early as this morning. At some point, the justices will weigh in on whether President Trump has the authority to impose those broad global tariffs. We'll have to wait to see if today's the day we get that consequential decision. As we wait, last night, President Trump forcefully defended his tariff policies, a fixture of his second-term agenda, while speaking at a steel manufacturing factory in Georgia.
Thanks to the fact that we got elected on November 5th. And thanks to what I call the Trump tariffs, business at Coosa Steel is booming again.
NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen joins us from Washington to break down President Trump's tariff defense and some more news shaping politics this morning. John, President Trump has preached that his so-called Liberation Day tariffs are a common sense way to boost the domestic economy, level the playing field with U.S. trading partners. Tell us more about how his critics view the policy, and perhaps most importantly, what would the Supreme Court ruling, if it's against his tariff authority, what would it mean for the president as we head into the midterms?
Yeah, good morning, Joe. The president said Liberation Day. A lot of businesses, a lot of American consumers saw that more as a day of being handcuffed by the Trump tariffs. For businesses, it means more difficulty getting particularly goods that they need to put into their products. For consumers, it means higher prices when they go to shop for items that are imported and then have these duties placed on them. So there's a lot of frustration in the American public about these tariffs and about the consequences. I think the worst predictions have not come true in terms of just how much prices were going to rise as a result of the tariffs, but certainly something that his critics are watching here. And by the way, internationally as well, certainly the other countries don't like having tariffs placed on them. But you saw European leaders rise up and talk about his threat of tariffs as blackmail, as coercion in President Trump's plans to try to get Greenland from Denmark. So a lot of frustration with him. If the Supreme Court rules against him, he's going to have to try to find another way to find that revenue. And I think it would be a strong statement that there are limits on the power of the president. The law on tariffs has always rested with Congress.
We'll see if that decision comes down later this morning. Some other news. There's a federal arts commission that's packed with President Trump's allies, including his 26-year-old assistant. They voted Thursday to approve the president's controversial White House ballroom plans. It's clear the president's trying to fast track this process. So what comes next? What kind of pushback could he get to those plans?
What comes next is, and as to your point, fast tracking. 2 weeks from now, the National Planning Commission will meet to basically further approve those plans, rubber stamp them. That commission is heavily stacked with Trump allies. So, the ballroom is moving forward apace. There are complaints, there are criticisms. It's possible it could be stopped by a court, but it looks like this is moving forward.
As the White House gets this makeover, our NBC colleague Julia Ainsley has some exclusive reporting about this luxury executive jet. The Department of Homeland Security says it needs the fancy flyer for immigrant deportation flights and for White House cabinet travel. What can you tell us about the price of this jet and how it could be used?
So, Joe, one thing I want to go back to real quick, the ballroom, just want to note that Comcast, our parent company, is a donor to that ballroom. But as far as the luxury jet that DHS is seeking, our colleague Julia Ainsley reports, you're talking about a Boeing 737 MAX 8, which is state-of-the-art technology. If it was being used as a passenger plane, would seat, maybe 150, 200 people. In this case, the secretary would be able to fly on a plane with a nice bedroom, with a bar, with all the trappings of grandiosity that you could possibly have in air travel. The Department of Homeland Security says that it is, it's necessary and that it will save taxpayers because the flights are a little more efficient in terms of the fuel efficiency. And they say that they will use it for deportation flights in addition to being the secretary's personal plane. We'll see about that.
Yeah, more to come on that one. All right, John, thanks so much. On the West Coast, a heavy snowstorm is hampering the recovery effort to find a missing skier near Lake Tahoe. The snow continues to pile up in California's Sierra Mountains, creating dangerous conditions and increasing the risk for rescuers. They're desperately searching for that final missing skier after an avalanche killed 8 others this week. NBC News national correspondent Morgan Chesky has the latest.
Near whiteout conditions in California causing havoc on mountain highways, stranding drivers and leaving thousands without power, forcing some schools to even close. In the high Sierra, nearly 2 feet of fresh snow, complicating an already dangerous recovery mission after California's deadliest avalanche ever. One skier still missing with 8 others confirmed dead as avalanche warnings only increase.
And this is why that avalanche warning has been extended. Snow now for days on end that you can barely walk through, much less reach a remote area tucked away in the Sierra backcountry.
The families of the victims releasing a statement, writing, "We are devastated beyond words."
Best describe it, tragic's the word that first comes to my mind, and the second word is impossible. We are facing worse avalanche risk than when the actual initial avalanche occurred.
Sugar Bowl Academy, a local ski school, saying multiple members of their community were lost. However, officials say no children were involved. Blackbird Mountain Guides temporarily suspending operations, confirming 3 of their own were among the victims. In Utah, authorities say an avalanche gave way, killing a young girl. Officials say one father died while snowmobiling with his son in yet another avalanche. In Truckee, as search and rescue teams wait for conditions to improve, a close-knit community left in mourning. One of the main concerns is when will this snowfall finally let up? It has been coming down so much so fast that authorities are now considering anything that could allow them access to where those victims still remain on that mountain. The undersheriff of Nevada County telling me that they're looking into the possibility of building a snow landing pad of sorts for a helicopter, or even carving a new path entirely for a snowcat to try to get through that mountainous terrain to reach those victims and bring them back home. Morgan Chesky, NBC News, Truckee, California.
All right, thank you, Morgan. Well, California continues to deal with those conditions. More rain and snow are on the way for the Northeast this morning. Meteorologist Melissa McGee has your weekend forecast. Melissa, good morning.
And good morning, everyone. We're tracking a frontal boundary moving across the upper Midwest and areas in the Northeast today. So making for a slow morning commute with that rain developing out across areas in D.C. all the way up into New York. Once we get into the afternoon and evening hours, snow will develop across areas in New England. So in terms of snowfall amounts, we're looking at anywhere from 2 to 6 inches of snowfall for Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine as we travel up through the mountains, locally higher amounts than that. We're watching the coast very closely for much of the Northeast as we head into our Sunday and into our Monday. We know a storm is going to form offshore. The question is, does it go up the coast or does it stay offshore? So snow is possible in the Northeast this upcoming weekend. The track of this low, though, will likely slide farther offshore as we head into our Sunday. Monday, the flurries will linger, so a risk of a major storm not likely. There are a few computer models that we look at, two specifically, the GFS or the American model. Now, the American model brings a major storm system to much of the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast with more than a foot of snow. This looks to be the outlier and, again, less likely. What we are trending toward is the European model, which will bring some light to moderate snowfall across this area as we head out on our Sunday and into our Monday. More details to come in the coming days. Spring is fleeing away across much of the plains and the Northeast. Enjoy it today. Corpus Christi, 84. That chill continues in Flagstaff. We've got temperatures in the 30s. Charlotte today, and it's 79 degrees. It's a nice one tomorrow for much of Austin, Texas, and it's 77, 68 in Atlanta. Temperatures will become a bit more seasonable early next week for much of the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Northeast. Detroit on Sunday, 39. You're at the freezing mark on your Monday and at 32. Portland, Maine, 34 degrees for your high temperature Sunday. You'll be hanging out in the 30s even as we head into early next week. That's a look at your national weather. Now back to you.
All right, Melissa, thank you. In Milan Cortina, Team USA might be saving the best for last, picking up some major medals on the ice as we head into the final weekend of the Winter Olympics. Finally, U.S. figure skating is golden thanks to Alyssa Liu's historic victory. Liu actually wore gold as she took gold in the women's skating event yesterday. It was an electric performance in the free skate. She is now the first American woman to take home the gold medal in the women's individual competition in 24 years. NBC News international correspondent Claudio Lavanga joins us from Milan with more on this. Claudio, good morning. Liu, only one of Team USA's Blade Angels to take the podium in the singles event, but it caps off just this incredible story of her at these Olympics, making a comeback, winning 2 golds, including one from the team event. She's just the epitome of cool, calm, and collected on ice. What more can you tell us about her performance?
Hey, Joe. Well, definitely. When yesterday I saw Alyssa Liu coming into the ice rink dressed in that beautiful golden dress, you know what I thought? There's only one necklace that is going to go well with that dress. It's a gold medal, and she did it by going through her routine flawlessly. She looked like she really had fun. She was enjoying herself more than perhaps other skaters who looked a little more nervous, and the audience really responded to that, and clearly also the judges responded to that. So she became, as you mentioned, the first female U.S. skater in figure skating to win a medal in 20 years and a gold medal in 24 years. And probably this is also one of the greatest comeback stories of this Winter Olympics, at least when it comes to Team USA. You know, after, as we all know, after Beijing, she retired. She took a 2.5 years break only to come back last year. And then look at what happened now. Gold medal for the first time in 24 years.
Yeah, no kidding. Whatever energy this is, she needs to bottle it and teach it to everyone else because it is incredible and obviously works for her. On the opposite side, she was cool, calm, and collected. I had 25 heart attacks yesterday in the women's hockey final. Team USA pulled it off, beating the Canadian rivals in this overtime nail-biter. Walk us through it, how it all went down, Claudio.
Yeah, Joe, I started to wonder whether any event in ice hockey here, men or women, are sponsored by cardiologists, because I'm sure you're not the only one who was having a few heart attacks yesterday. Actually, I was live on News Now when the U.S. was still down 1-0, and we were only 2 minutes to the to regulation when Zinkley said, oh, don't worry, Hillary Knight is going to score in the last minute. And she did by the time that live was over. So we can say that News Now contributed to the victory of Team USA. And then in overtime, of course, Megan Keller, she scored the winner. But that was another nail-biter.
No kidding. And Zinkley's psychic, it turns out. How about that? All right, we're coming into the home stretch of this year's Winter Games. What are we watching out for today?
Well, let's say on ice hockey, the men are back later today after struggling to pass through Sweden in the quarterfinal. In the semifinal, they meet Slovakia. Now, Slovakia is 9th on the world ranking, but, they prove themselves to be real contenders here and a really strong team, especially after they beat Germany in the quarterfinal 6-2. So we look forward to see that. So hopefully that will be a bit smoother than the other games. I don't want you to have more heart attacks. And then later on, also the curling is going to happen. The women's curling team has qualified for the semifinal. They're going to play Switzerland. Men's team did not qualify. Even there, though, there's Canada. The other semifinal in curling is Canada-Sweden. So you never know. Maybe we'll see U.S.-Canada in the final of curling too. We'll see.
All right, stay tuned. Claudio, thank you so much. Appreciate it. You can catch all of the best Olympic action and excitement on Primetime in Milan, hosted by Mike Tirico, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern on NBC and streaming on Peacock. Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, delaying care, more moms to be putting off prenatal checkups, the warning from doctors. Up first after the break, military might on the move, the growing tensions between the U.S. and Iran. That's next. We'll be right back. We're back with a look at America's escalating tensions with Iran. Yesterday, President Trump hinted that possible military action against the Islamic State could come sooner rather than later. Speaking at the inaugural meeting of his Board of Peace, President Trump offered a timeline of 10 to 15 days for Iran to reach a deal or, quote, bad things will happen. The U.S. is now on track to complete one of its largest military buildups in the Middle East in decades. The Defense Department has deployed aircraft carriers, warships, and air defenses to the region, preparing for any possible action. NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Hake joins me now with more on this. Garrett, good morning. So we know talks between the U.S. and Iran wrapped up in Geneva earlier this week. So what should we make of this short timeline from the president, again, given at the Board of Peace meeting? And is it clear what his potential plans or goals are for these strikes?
Yeah, Joe, it's not at all clear what the plan or goal of these strikes are, and I think that's one of the reasons why it may take a little bit more time. This is so different from other strikes in the region, or even going back to the war in Iraq in 2003, where the administration really hasn't made the case publicly for why military action would be necessary. But as to the timeline, I think it's still totally fluid for two reasons. First, that starting this weekend, basically all of those military assets will be in place, including a second carrier group, the USS Gerald Ford. It's the largest warship ever built, which means that all the military pieces necessary for sort of a larger military campaign will be there. And second, the specific timeline that the president laid out, this idea of 10 days to 2 weeks, as frequent viewers know, 2 weeks is kind of a stand-in timeline that the president gives when he just hasn't made a decision yet. If he makes a decision, I think action could potentially come much sooner than that.
As for Iran, how is the country responding?
Well, Iran was, interestingly enough, conducting military exercises with Russia pre-planned earlier this week. They sent a letter to the United Nations warning that if they are struck, they would respond decisively and proportionately. They say the U.S. would bear full and direct responsibility for anything that happens after that. Joe, this is similar language to what we heard in the lead up to those strikes over the summer. It's not clear that Iran has the capability to strike back in the manner which they're describing, but they are trying to send this warning internationally as well.
Garrett, we've seen President Trump clash with members of Congress in the past over military action that Congress did not authorize. What are lawmakers saying about the president's latest threats against Iran?
Yeah, Joe, typically we see some pushback here from Democrats. That's been the case thus far. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, some of the Democrats on the Intel and Foreign Affairs committees have suggested that the president needs to come make his case to them about why military action is necessary. But so far, we've not seen any significant pushback from the Republican Party. That's probably the factor that might get in the president's ear if it were to happen. So far, not much, with Congress out of town this week.
All right, Garrett Hake at the White House. Garrett, thank you so much. Staying with news in the Middle East, we want to talk more about that first meeting of President Trump's new Board of Peace. As a fragile ceasefire still holds in Gaza, the enclave's future was at the top of the agenda. The president announced a $7 billion pledge made by 9 nations in the group to help with Gaza's reconstruction. Representatives from more than 25 countries attended, with others, including Italy, South Korea, and the European Union, there as observers. Notably absent, key allies like the UK, France, and the ones also listed there, which have opted not to join. NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley joins us now from Tel Aviv with more on this. Matt, good morning. So this $7 billion, what exactly would it be used for on the ground in Gaza, and how much of a difference could it make given the scale of the destruction there?
Well, Joe, I mean, you and I can't sniff at $7 billion. That's a huge amount, but it is just 10%, which is a pretty good start of the $70 billion that the United Nations estimates will be necessary to reconstruct, rebuild the Gaza Strip. There are so many challenges. And so, yes, this is a big step forward. It would apparently be used toward reconstruction, towards some of those glossy images that we saw every time we see this group meet, or Jared Kushner talking about plans for the Gaza Strip. They are clearly looking at this from the perspective of a businessman or a developer. And for many people who are watching, that might be a refreshing change of pace. But the fact is that I think that they're going to find, as the United States found the hard way in Iraq and Afghanistan, and as Israel has found in some of its theaters of conflict around the region, that money is the easy part. And the real challenges lay in security and pacifying the situation in the Gaza Strip. Not a single rock can be moved without having some sort of security. And so far, that's been very elusive. There are really, really big disagreements remaining between Israel and Hamas about that question of disarmament. We heard from Benjamin Netanyahu saying that he had reassurances from the United States that there would be no rebuilding of the Gaza Strip until Hamas is completely disarmed. Well, Hamas says they'll never disarm, and there's no real plan to escape that impasse.
On top of that, you got Hamas now holding a vote to select a new interim leader. So first, what, if any, response from Gaza is there to the Board of Peace pledging to give this money on the ground there? And could this leadership change complicate any ceasefire talks or the reconstruction?
Well, look, Joe, I mean, there's not a whole lot of real praise or frustration with this process when we spoke to people on the ground in the Gaza Strip. The fact is the situation there remains so desperate that folks in the Gaza Strip don't really care about the high-level machinations that are going on in diplomacy, about whether or not the Board of Peace is going to be addressing Gaza or Russia or whatever. They just want relief, and they need it now. As winter is continuing, there are desperate scenes of people who are still living rough, some of them in partially destroyed buildings that have a habit of falling down on their heads. This is a situation that has improved since the ceasefire took effect last October, but one that remains dire. And so for people in the Gaza Strip, it doesn't necessarily matter whether or not it's the Board of Peace or the United Nations. They want relief, and they want it now.
Matt, while we have you, I also want to ask you about the violence that continues in the occupied West Bank. That includes the killing of a 19-year-old Palestinian American by Israeli settlers. What are we learning about what happened?
Yeah, I mean, this is the second time that we've seen a Palestinian American shot dead in the Gaza Strip in just a year. The last time we saw it, there was a man who was shot dead by the IDF. There was another younger man who was shot dead recently as well. This is a situation that we've seen on repeat for the past couple of years in the Gaza Strip as settlement efforts by Jewish settlers expand and as they're blessed by right-wing politicians here in Israel who seem to see this as the culmination of a lifelong project to settle the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, and to forestall any possibility that there might be a Palestinian state that could take root in the West Bank. So this is one of these issues where we saw youth throwing rocks alongside, they were attacked, or they said that they were set upon by Jewish Israeli settlers in the town of Mukhmas. This young man was shot dead by an Israeli settler after IDF troops appeared on the scene. They said that he had fired shots. Now, everybody, of course, is denying that. But again, this is a pattern that we're seeing over and over and over again, where settlers in the West Bank are attacking Palestinians, often with impunity, sometimes with the blessing of the security forces. Joe.
All right. Matt Bradley. Matt, thank you. Coming up, a sad morning in Hollywood. Grey's Anatomy star Eric Dane has died less than a year after announcing that he had ALS. How he's being remembered next on Morning News Now. We're back with a new report from the CDC that reveals a concerning drop in the number of pregnant women who are getting early prenatal care. The data shows nearly a quarter of women are delaying medical care until after their first trimester. Doctors say those early months are critical for monitoring the health of both the moms and their developing babies, and they warn that delaying care can increase the risk of dangerous complications. For more on this, I'm joined now by NBC News health and medical reporter Erica Edwards. Erica, good morning. What else did this report reveal about prenatal care? Who's most impacted?
Yeah, so Black mothers and women under age 20 were least likely to get timely prenatal care, but this trend really held across the board. All racial and ethnic groups, women of all ages during their childbirthing years, nearly a quarter, as you said, over a quarter, as you said, are either delaying seeing a doctor at all during pregnancy or going without one at all.
So the CDC didn't address why this is actually happening, but you spoke with some doctors about it. Why do they think it's happening?
Yeah, lack of access. I mean, it's just getting more and more difficult for women to get in with a doctor. We know that birthing centers are closing. More than a third of U.S. counties are qualified as maternity care deserts, meaning they don't have a single doctor, nurse, midwife, medical center specializing in pregnancy. To also talk to one doctor in Los Angeles who said that many patients may be scared to go in for help because their legal status is unclear. So a lot of reasons.
Remind us why prenatal care is so important for moms, for their babies. Those first few months are just incredibly important.
Yeah, this is just the best time to assess a woman's risk during pregnancy, get blood sugar under control, get blood pressure under control. If you can start your pregnancy as healthy as possible, you're much more likely to end up with a healthy baby.
For the women who aren't getting this care, do we have a better idea or an idea of what is happening to them? I mean, obviously, we assume it can be dangerous for them, but are we hearing more evidence of this from doctors that it's becoming a problem?
Yeah, you know, their health risks go up. They increase the chance that they're going to develop dangerously high blood pressure later in pregnancy. That can be fatal. And we also know that, you know, Black women are more at risk for that.
And this is an issue we talk about all the time, the discrepancies when it comes to women of color, and an issue that we try to have a conversation about, but definitely more change needs to happen to try to address it.
Absolutely, and this is just getting worse over time.
All right, Erica Edwards, thank you so much. Appreciate it. We've got some sad news out of Hollywood this morning. Grey's Anatomy star Eric Dane has passed away at just 53 years old following a hard-fought battle with ALS. His death comes just 10 months after announcing he was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease. It causes progressive muscle paralysis and has no cure right now. The actor quickly became an ALS advocate following his diagnosis. Dane was best known for his role as Dr. Mark Sloan, a.k.a. Dr. McSteamy, on the popular doctor drama Grey's Anatomy. More recently, he was on the hit HBO show Euphoria. A family spokesperson told NBC that Dane spent his final days surrounded by family and friends, including his two daughters, who were the, quote, center of his world. Coming up on the witness stand, up next, a former Meta employee testifying against the company over the impacts of its social media platforms on children. The latest in this landmark trial next. You're watching Morning News Now. We are back with a high-stakes trial in Los Angeles over social media's impact to children's mental health. A former Meta employee took the stand yesterday, testifying against the company and saying that during his 11 years there, user safety and well-being were never a top priority. Instead, he said, leaders encouraged employees to, quote, move fast and break things. YouTube is the other remaining defendant in this case. Its VP of engineering now expected to testify on Monday. Both companies deny all allegations. I'm joined now by NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris for more on this trial. So this former Meta employee who says he's a whistleblower, highly critical of CEO Mark Zuckerberg, calling him extremely competitive and focused on dominance and growth. What stood out to you most from what we heard?
So what I heard yesterday was somebody who is a whistleblower. So they're there for 11 years. They're in a position to understand the marketing of the company, the goals of the company, and their testimony is going to be critical to proving liability for the plaintiffs because they knew, and this is what plaintiffs need to show, they knew there were risks, they knew there were safety concerns, but they moved forward anyway without safeguards, without restrictions as far as younger users. And so the testimony of these whistleblowers who have intimate knowledge of the company and can explain that to the jury, that's the most critical piece, are really going to be an important piece for the plaintiffs.
So no court proceedings today, but a second so-called Meta whistleblower expected to take the stand on Monday. How key is the testimony from these two when it comes to the plaintiffs making their case?
It's really important because it's all about what the companies knew and when. Keep in mind, you know, these platforms, social media, it's evolving over time. We're talking about a time period where they're relatively new, identifying risks and then reacting. The question is, did the companies do enough? Did they act reasonably and put enough safeguards in place to protect children from the harms that could come from this? And a lot of what we've seen, we have the two whistleblowers, internal documentation, internal memos, internal emails that flag these issues are all going to be a piece of that for the plaintiff's case.
In your mind, are those things the key, or is it just the combination of all these things? You hear from the whistleblower, but then you also look at documents.
Well, it's going to be the totality of the circumstances. It's going to be everything together. These are really important to show. There's a couple things you have to show. One is that there was a known risk and you basically just disregarded it. The other piece is going to be causation, meaning the harm, the distress, the mental health issues that are alleged by the plaintiff were actually caused not by the content that they were seeing, not by the actual types of things that are posted by third parties, but by the algorithm, by the limitless scrolling, by the actual design of the website. So all of that is going to be a part of this case.
YouTube CEO removed from the witness list earlier this week, but now the plaintiffs plan to call its vice president of engineering. He's known as an apex witness. Tell us what that means and what that means for the case.
So an apex witness is a high-level person, somebody who's in the C-suite, somebody who is protected from what we would call undue harassment. There's limited types of questions that can be asked of an apex witness. But what we know from YouTube is that they have actually a unique defense that they're going to be raising. And this was something that came out during the opening statements. They say that their platform, YouTube, is more like Netflix, is more like an entertainment platform, less like the other apps that are at issue in this case. So it's going to be another unique set of circumstances with respect to YouTube specifically.
So part of the strategy could be YouTube saying, we're not like Facebook
Correct.
or other traditional social media
Right.
companies. We're your streamer.
You're going to come on here, you're going to learn how to cook, you're going to watch a football game, you're going to watch other entertainment, other types of shows. So they're going to try and differentiate themselves. Because remember, even though we have a group of defendants who are in the social media world, they're all uniquely postured with respect to whether or not there's liability.
Fascinating line right there that they're trying to draw. All right, Misty Maris, thank you so much. Appreciate it. More financial headlines this morning. Walgreens looking to cut costs with a new round of layoffs. NBC News business and economy reporter Allie Canal has your Money Minute. Allie, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. That's right. Walgreens is laying off more than 600 employees as its private equity owner, Sycamore Partners, looks to trim those costs. Now, the pharmacy chain told NBC News it's simplifying operations in order to speed up decision-making. The layoffs, concentrated in Illinois and Texas, come after years of profitability pressures from online competition, plus lower drug reimbursements. Meanwhile, 3 Silicon Valley engineers have been indicted on charges of stealing trade secrets from Google and other tech firms, and also allegedly sending that data to Iran. Now, Google told NBC News it detected the activity through routine security monitoring and alerted law enforcement as a result. If convicted, the defendants face up to 10 years per trade secret count and up to 20 years for obstruction of justice. And over in Hollywood, Titanic director James Cameron, he's urging lawmakers to take a hard look at Netflix's deal for Warner Brothers Discovery's studio and streaming business. He called it potentially disastrous for the theatrical industry, according to a letter obtained by CNBC. Now, Netflix has argued that the merger would be pro-consumer and expand production, but Washington isn't so sure. Meanwhile, competitor Paramount Skydance is technically still in the running, with its best and final offer for WBD due next week. And Joe, I feel like this race for Warner Brothers Discovery, it could be a Hollywood movie in its own right. Maybe we get James Cameron to direct. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
There you
feel
go.
like maybe it's already in the works.
I don't know if it's epic enough for him. I feel like he needs something that has like a little more high budget things going on there.
We can get Leo on board. He can play David Zaslav, the CEO of WBD. Maybe that'll convince James Cameron
You've
to
been
hop
thinking
on.
about this. Maybe you should be a producer
Yeah,
on it. All right.
I think I'd be great.
All right.
I'm going to noodle on this a little bit more.
We appreciate that. All right. Thanks, Allie. All right. Coming up, fire on the ice this morning. We're celebrating not one, but 2 major gold medal wins for Team USA at the Winter Olympics. Speaking of fire, it's been about a month of these fire fits from our own Jay Gray. He's going to join us next as the Winter Games come to a close, discussing his fabulous wardrobe. Morning News Now will be right back. Let's end this hour with an amazing run for Team USA at the Winter Games. Team USA on fire on the ice yesterday with 2 amazing performances to reach the top of the podium. Later today, they've got the chance to continue that hardware run. NBC News correspondent Jay Gray is covering it all from Milan. Jay, good morning. A historic day for Team USA. A lot to talk about. Give us a recap of the highlights.
Yeah, and Joe, I think yesterday may have been the best 24 hours Team USA has had throughout these entire games. Epic comebacks in 2 premier events, 2 gold medals. Let's start with figure skating. Amazing to see Alyssa Liu out on the ice and look perfect, spinning, skating, doing all the things you do with a smile. The smile was the biggest part of her performance for me. She was so at ease, having such a great time. She started in 3rd place coming in from the short program, finishes the free skate on top in 1st place. And think about the history here. The last time a U.S. woman in figure skating singles was on the top of the podium, it was 24 years ago. She wasn't even born then. Sarah Hughes with the last gold medal before last night, so that's a big deal. Women's hockey, a huge deal as well. That was an incredible game. They got out there, they fought for the first period, no score. Second period early, a shorthand goal by Canada. They're up 1-0, and Team USA fighting for their life in the third. 2 minutes, 4 seconds left. They get the tying goal, go to overtime. They score the win. They get the gold. Fantastic hockey, and that's the way it's supposed to work out, right? You've got these 2 bitter rivals, the 2 best teams by far in women's hockey, and they fight it out in overtime. 1 more medal yesterday, silver in the 1500 men's speed skating. Of course, that's Jordan Stolz. That's his 3rd medal of these games. He got a chance for 1 more in the mass start on Saturday.
A great run for him. I have to say, seeing Sarah Hughes in the audience last night,
so cool.
And then learning that Alyssa Liu wasn't born when she won, because I remember when Sarah Hughes won. That was a humbling moment there for us right there, Jay. All right, it's not over. We've still got a couple days left of the Winter Games. Remind us what's left and who's still in the hunt for a medal beyond Jordan.
Yeah, let's talk about the men's hockey team. They play Slovakia tonight. If they move on, they're into the gold medal round and assured at least a silver, so that's a big deal. You got freestyle skiing with the men's half pipe. Watch the women's side as well, though. They've been delayed by some of the weather up there. They've got some people who could make it to the podium. Mass start we talked about in speed skating. A biathlon, we've got a good chance today at getting a medal. And I think it's just we've surprised in so many of these events over the last several days that you can't rule any of these teams out, but I'm going to tell you, Joe, in hockey, those guys need to get out to like a 10-goal lead in the first period. The drama, yes. I can't take anymore. I'm an old man. My heart will not bear it. We've got to do something about it.
I am with you on that one here. We have to talk about your amazing sweater and all the incredible clothes that you've been wearing throughout the Olympics. I have to warn you, because I wore some Olympic gear yesterday, and for reasons I don't understand, people then ask me if I'm an athlete competing, which clearly is not the case here. But are you going to wear your gear around, Jay, when you get back?
Joe, I have never had that issue. I've never had that problem.
You'll be surprised.
So, maybe you can share the workout routine with me. And I've been so fortunate to get some of the gear from Team USA and to be able to share it and show it. Today I chose the heaviest wool sweater you could, and it's 60-something degrees out here. And look, I think the sweat has made it stretch out to the point where it's not wearable anymore.
Still looks great. Still looks great. And we see all your collection of clothes there. We only have about 20 seconds left here, Jay, but do you have one favorite moment so far from these games?
Yeah, there's so many that I hate to pick one, but if I have to, I'm going to have to say Alana Myers-Taylor. Just to see her come back, to see what she did, to finally get the gold medal in her 5th Olympics, with her kids there with her. I get goosebumps still thinking about it, talking about it. It was a magical moment in these games, and I was just so thrilled to get a chance to watch it and to share it with everybody back at home.
Well, we appreciate you sharing all these stories with us. Jay Gray, thank you so much. We appreciate everything. Thanks, over these past couple weeks. You can catch the best Olympic action and excitement again tonight, primetime in Milan, hosted by Mike Tirico, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern on NBC and streaming on Peacock. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now, but stick with us. The news continues right now. Good Friday morning. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment. Right now on Morning News Now, a solemn former Prince Andrew captured moments after being released under investigation by British authorities. Hours earlier, an arrest that shocked the world. The one-time royal taken into custody on suspicion of misconduct in public office as speculation swirls over his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. The searing statement coming straight from Andrew's brother, King Charles, and the explosive fallout from it all here at home. Also this morning, the desperate search for Nancy Guthrie enters its heartbreaking 20th day. Investigators combing through all leads, including a unique-looking gun holster seen on the suspect in that doorbell camera footage. We've got the latest as some of Tucson's younger folks rally around our own Savannah Guthrie, scouting out extra love for a sister in need. Plus, a somber headline out of the world of Hollywood. Eric Dane, perhaps best known to fans as Dr. Mark Sloan, the head-turning hunk who graced screens for years on Grey's Anatomy, passing away at age 53 from ALS complications. We'll look back on his storied career as tributes pour in from the world of entertainment and beyond. And later in the hour, Olympic domination doled out by Team USA yesterday, from an overtime nail-biter that put our women's hockey warriors back on top of the world, to the carefree clinic put on by figure skating phenom Alyssa Liu. We've got everything you might have missed, plus what's next as the curtain begins to close on Milan Cortina. Let's begin this hour with the release of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor from police custody. The former prince and brother of King Charles was arrested yesterday morning on suspicion of misconduct in public office. He was later released pending further investigation. This morning, police are again searching his current and former residences. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us from London with the very latest. Raf, good morning.
Joe, good morning. Yeah, as you said, police are today continuing their search of a royal residence near Windsor Castle where Andrew used to live, even though the former prince has now been released from police custody. Joe, this is the biggest international aftershock yet of the Epstein scandal, and it has left the monarchy shaken by the first arrest of a member of the royal family in nearly 400 years.
This morning, former Prince Andrew is out of police custody, but not out of legal danger. Released from a police station in eastern England last night, around 11 hours after his stunning arrest on the morning of his 66th birthday. Andrew has not been charged, but police say he remains under investigation on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Officers searching both his house in Norfolk and his former royal residence near Windsor Castle. Just weeks after newly released Justice Department files shed fresh light on Andrew's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, appearing to show Andrew sent the convicted sex offender British government documents in 2010 while he was serving as a UK trade envoy. Andrew has always denied wrongdoing in relation to Epstein and hasn't commented on the latest files. King Charles was given no warning ahead of his younger brother's arrest, a palace official says.
Do you have any reaction to the arrest of your brother, sir? Your Majesty, how are you feeling after your brother's arrest?
And went ahead with his scheduled day at London Fashion Week. But in a statement, the King promised police our full and wholehearted support and cooperation. Let me state clearly, the law must take its course. It comes as scrutiny for public figures connected to Epstein continues in the U.S. as well. This week, Les Wexner, the billionaire former head of Victoria's Secret, testifying before Congress. Under fire over his lengthy relationship with Epstein and multiple appearances in the files, denying wrongdoing and saying Epstein duped him.
In this, I was completely blind.
At one point, his attorney interjected.
Answer the question. 5 words, okay?
As fallout from those documents is felt worldwide.
And Jeffrey Epstein's estate has now agreed to pay up to $35 million to settle a class action lawsuit alleging that 2 of his advisors aided Epstein in sex trafficking. Now, neither of those advisors have admitted wrongdoing as part of this settlement, and a judge would still need to give the deal his approval. Jeff.
All right, Raph, thank you. For more on what these new developments mean for the royal family, let's bring in NBC royal commentator Daisy McAndrew. Daisy, good morning. Thank you for joining us. In the hours after news of Andrew's arrest, it did appear to be business as usual for the royal family. The king and queen both kept their scheduled engagements. Princess Anne is set for some appearances today. Is the family sticking to that traditional keep calm and carry on approach right now?
I think the answer to that is sort of yes and sort of no. They definitely conducted their duties and the events that they were booked to do yesterday. As you saw in that package, the King was out celebrating the beginning of London Fashion Week. The Queen was out, and actually Princess Anne, rather ironically, was out yesterday visiting a prison in the north of England as part of one of her patronages and charitable events. So yes, they were putting their best foot forward. But equally, we did have this statement that was put out just a couple of hours after news of the arrest broke from Buckingham Palace, written by the King. So it wasn't one of his courtiers saying the King understands ... It was the King in the first person. But again, as you said, not referring to Andrew as my brother, but referring to him as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. So definitely wanting to put some distance between himself and his brother.
I mean, yeah, we know Andrew's relationship with the royal family, especially with his brother, has been strained for years, especially recently after he stepped back from royal duties, lost his military titles and patronages. So I want to repeat what you said there. He referred to him as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. No mention of my brother. What do you make of that and how the palace is handling this?
I mean, there couldn't have been a clearer indication that this was something that the King needs to keep himself away from as much as possible. It was also very, very interesting to see the way that the King tried to refer back to, I will continue and my family will continue to put service and duty at the very, very centre of everything that we do. So in many ways, it was the King trying to distance himself from his brother and saying that the law must be allowed to continue to investigate this matter, very, very serious as it is.
Let's talk about the next generation. Prince William, Princess Kate have said they are, quote, deeply concerned by the ongoing revelations surrounding Jeffrey Epstein, but they're also just keeping their focus on the victims. How might that reflect the way they're looking to shape the monarchy as the future king and queen?
I think it's very important to remember how many members of the royal family are now involved with charities, the patrons of charities, that specifically are concerned with modern slavery, domestic abuse victims, violence against women and girls, particularly the King's own wife, Camilla, who has really been working very, very hard for a number of years in that area. And certainly those around him have let me know that that was one of the most difficult parts of this story. Of course, this particular accusation is that Andrew misused his public office, and that was more sort of perhaps financial issues. But of course, the whiff of sexual scandal has been following Andrew for many, many years, and that whiff has now turned into a massive stench as he's been the first royal to be arrested, and that stench is threatening to overwhelm the royal family. And so it's particularly the issues surrounding the victims that many of the female members of the royal family, Catherine, Sophie, and Queen Camilla, have all worked extremely hard in that area.
Yeah, so I mean, just long term, what could be the impact on the royal brand after all of this?
I mean, at the moment, it's impossible to say other than this is an absolute catastrophe for the royal family. The royal family's popularity, particularly amongst younger generations in this country and across the world, has been falling. And this, of course, now it's not just news in this country, it's news around the world, and of the very worst type of news. So it is the biggest crisis the royal family have been facing since the abdication of the late Queen's uncle in the 1930s. So it cannot be overestimated how serious the situation is.
Daisy McAndrew, appreciate you joining us this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
In Arizona, it is now day 20 of the search for Nancy Guthrie, the mother of our NBC News colleague Savannah Guthrie. There are still no suspects in the case, but with several active leads, everyone from investigators to Tucson residents are doing whatever they can to try to find her. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz joins us from Tucson with the latest. Liz, good morning.
Well, hey there. It is all about patience right now as we wait for that unknown DNA to be processed and analyzed. But investigators are chasing a number of those other leads, including the suspect's clothes and gun holster. And the Pima County Sheriff's Office tells us they are still getting hundreds of tips a day pouring in.
This morning, 20 days into the search for Nancy Guthrie, there have been setbacks and challenges and still no suspect. But some 400 FBI agents and sheriff deputies are still actively working the case, canvassing the city as they try to find answers to so many of the unknowns.
Part of what makes this search so challenging is just how vast the area around Nancy's home is. You can get a sense of it here. Pima County is about 9,000 square miles. That is larger than the entire state of New Jersey. And a lot of it looks like this: massive mountain ranges and the Sonoran Desert that stretches for miles.
But the Pima County Sheriff says the case is far from cold. They're still analyzing unknown DNA found at Nancy's home and other leads, including the suspect's backpack, gun, and what the sheriff has described as his unique-looking holster. Firearms expert John Correa says it appears to be a universal fit holster and isn't one an experienced gun owner would use.
This does not strike me as a highly trained professional. This guy's an amateur.
The search for Nancy also expanding. A missing persons group in Mexico sharing this flyer about her disappearance, although the sheriff maintains there's no evidence to suggest she was taken across the border. And many across Tucson are refusing to give up hope.
Whenever we go out, we say, okay, look for any clues or anything different as we go along that you wouldn't normally see.
Inside the county's 911 communication center, dispatchers inundated with tips. Some 50,000 tips have come in between the sheriff's department and FBI combined.
What do you think it says that you're getting so many tips about this case? I think it says that people care.
And that dispatch manager tells us that while they are getting tips they're able to pass along to investigators, she says they're also getting bogged down with people calling in, giving everything from their opinions and theories on the case, in some cases giving their premonitions about it. She asks that if you do want to call in, that you stop and think first, is this viable, credible? Is it something that an investigator can actually act upon? Back to you.
All right, Liz Kreutz, thank you. In Savannah's hometown of Tucson, we've seen so much of the community rally around the Guthrie family during this incredibly difficult time. NBC's Kelly O'Donnell is there. She joins me now to help deliver messages from a special group offering hope and love to a sister in need. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning, Joe. There are so many across Tucson who feel a connection to the shared hometown with the Guthries, a place that they know and care about and know that they relate in many ways. That's true even of very young people in Tucson. And we met with Girl Scouts who see Savannah as someone who is a familiar face, but also someone who walked in the same shoes they walk in now as Scouts. And these girls have a message they want to send. Tender hearts with much to say.
Hi, Savannah. We're praying for your family. Please don't give up hope.
Sweet and gentle voices making a special commitment.
This is for you right now. Love and prayers.
Girl Scouts of Southern Arizona coming together.
Make the world a better place and be a sister to every Girl Scout.
And here, that bond crosses generations, embracing Savannah, who wore the same badges and sash back in the day when she was a little girl.
For us, it hits home. It's a Tucson family. It is one of our own, as Savannah is a Girl Scout alum.
For Troop 789, this meeting moved on from the business of cookies to a project of compassion. What is your message to the Guthrie family?
I hope they find their mom, and I wish them good luck.
Troop leader Miss Tia.
A lot of times people wear yellow ribbons as a sign of hope and solidarity.
Talking through feelings and what it means when a loved one is missing.
So if they just went missing one day, then I would definitely be scared and sad.
Anxious and worried, a little bit scared.
The larger mission is to prepare these girls for the world as it is, not shield them from it.
Life can be scary, and so for us, we want to ensure that we provide a safe space for girls to share their feelings, to be real and honest and raw.
With colors and creativity, the girls pour themselves into messages of hope.
Well, to me, it means providing comfort to a person who currently probably doesn't have a lot of it.
Scouts across the Southern Arizona chapter answering a call to action, making personalized videos.
Sending love from all your Girl Scout sisters. We love you.
The Guthrie family on their minds. Savannah, known to them, not for her famed career, but here as a sister in need. And we were part of that troop meeting, listening to the girls and their conversations, and they had so many insights and had so much compassion for the Guthrie family. Just so happens that Savannah was also honored by this chapter of the Girl Scouts of Southern Arizona just last year among the notable alumni. And so these girls really do feel a connection and see something in her. They say strong women inspire strong girls, and we certainly saw that.
No
Joe?
doubt. So true. Kelly, thank you so much for that story. We appreciate it. President Trump is escalating his threats against Iran this morning. Speaking at the inaugural meeting of his Board of Peace yesterday, the president warned of, quote, bad things if Iran does not make a deal over its nuclear and ballistic missile programs. Overnight, he set a new deadline for this deal. This comes as the U.S. continues its massive military buildup in the Middle East in preparation for possible strikes. NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Hake is outside the White House with the latest on this. Garrett, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. That military buildup near Iran is now one of, if not the largest such buildups by the U.S. in decades, a huge gathering of forces that the president says he would rather not use, urging the Iranian regime to make a deal now or face the consequences.
President Trump issuing an ultimatum to Iran, warning the regime's leaders to make a deal over their nuclear program or else.
They cannot continue to threaten the stability of the entire region, and they must make a deal. Bad things will happen if it doesn't.
The president's latest threat comes as the U.S. is assembling one of the largest military forces in the Middle East in decades. Submarines, air defense systems, and an aircraft carrier group already in the region. And the USS Gerald Ford, the largest warship ever built, expected to arrive in days. The president offering this timeline for possible military action, speaking at the inaugural meeting of his Board of Peace.
We may have to take it a step further, or we may not. Maybe we're going to make a deal. You're going to be finding out over the next probably 10 days.
The president huddled with his national security team in the Situation Room Wednesday, according to a senior administration official. Still unclear what Mr. Trump might order or when. The president on Air Force One was asked about the goals of any potential strike.
I'm not going to talk to you about that, but we're either going to get a deal or it's going to be unfortunate for them.
The president's threats coming on the heels of direct talks between the U.S. and Iran held this week, which concluded without agreement on the country's nuclear or ballistic missile programs. Unlike recent military action in the Middle East, Democrats say the Trump administration has done little to make the case to Congress or the American people for what could be a major war. Some arguing diplomacy must play out.
Now, I think that jumping into strikes, I think that right now we have so much, to me, there's still so much runway, so much that we can do to avoid that scenario.
For their part, Iran has sent a letter to the United Nations warning of a decisive and proportionate response to any U.S. strike. Joe, they add that the United States would own any additional violence in the region.
All right, Garrett, thank you. Let's get a check on the weather now. It's a rainy start to the weekend across the Northeast. Meteorologist Melissa McGee has your forecast. Melissa, good morning.
And good morning, everyone. We're tracking a frontal boundary moving across the upper Midwest and areas in the Northeast today. So making for a slow morning commute with that rain developing out across areas in D.C. all the way up into New York. Once we get into the afternoon and evening hours, snow will develop across areas in New England. So in terms of snowfall amounts, we're looking at anywhere from 2 to 6 inches of snowfall for Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine as we travel up through the mountains, locally higher amounts than that. We're watching the coast very closely for much of the Northeast as we head into our Sunday and into our Monday. We know a storm is going to form offshore. The question is, does it go up the coast or does it stay offshore? So snow is possible in the Northeast this upcoming weekend. The track of this low, though, will likely slide farther offshore as we head into our Sunday. Monday, the flurries will linger, so a risk of a major storm not likely. There are a few computer models that we look at, two specifically, the GFS or the American model. Now, the American model brings a major storm system to much of the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast with more than a foot of snow. This looks to be the outlier and, again, less likely. What we are trending toward is the European model, which will bring some light to moderate snowfall across this area as we head out on our Sunday and into our Monday. More details to come in the coming days. Spring is fleeing away across much of the plains and the Northeast. Enjoy it today. Corpus Christi, 84. That chill continues in Flagstaff. We've got temperatures in the 30s. Charlotte today, and it's 79 degrees. It's a nice one tomorrow for much of Austin, Texas, and it's 77, 68 in Atlanta. Temperatures will become a bit more seasonable early next week for much of the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Northeast. Detroit on Sunday, 39. You're at the freezing mark on your Monday and at 32. Portland, Maine, 34 degrees for your high temperature Sunday. You'll be hanging out in the 30s even as we head into early next week. That's a look at your national weather. Now back to you.
All right, thank you, Melissa. Much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including the souring squabble between two classic chiefs of chocolate that's coming down to a bitter case of re-said, she said. Pay attention to how we spelled that. Re-said, she said. Over in Milan, though, nothing but the taste of sweet victory for Team USA. All the gold medal glory you might have missed from yesterday's powerhouse day of performances. And what's on deck going into this final weekend of the Winter Games? That's next. Stay with us. We're back now with excellence on the ice for Team USA in Milan Cortina. The U.S. has a new pair of gold medals in their tally, thanks to Blade Angel Alyssa Liu and the unstoppable women's hockey team. And while the Olympics might be coming to a close this weekend, there are still several athletes still in the hunt for a podium finish. NBC News international correspondent Claudio Lavaga joins us again from Milan with the latest. Claudio, good morning. So walk us through those podium finishes for Team USA yesterday. A busy, happy day.
Well, definitely, Joe. It almost was a clean slate. We were that close for Team USA after those two gold medals on Alyssa Liu and the women's ice hockey team. Well, everybody was expecting the same from Jordan Stoltz in the 1500 meters. In the end, he won only, quote, quote, of course, silver. That's still a great result, but probably not what everybody was expecting. Jordan said he was still happy with it, as any athlete should be, but he still has one more shot to go for that third gold medal in the same Winter Olympics. That will make him only the second U.S. athletes to win 3 or more gold medals in the same Winter Olympics, and that's going to happen on Saturday, tomorrow, for the mass start. So we'll watch out for that, Joe.
So, Claudio, beyond Jordan Stolz, give us a preview of some of the events featuring American athletes today. What are you watching out for?
Well, let's stay on the ice, of course, with ice hockey, this time for the men's semi-final. Now, let's hope that it's not going to give anybody a heart attack like, you know, the women's final and the men's quarterfinal did. But they're going to play Slovakia. They are 9th on the world ranking, but they proved to be really strong. They beat Germany 6-2 in the quarterfinal. So it's going to be a great game later in the day. Also, the women's curling team are facing Switzerland in the semi-final. The men did not qualify. Now, in both of these events, also Canada is playing in the other semi-final. So we may see, who knows, a final, hopefully the dream final in the ice hockey, the men's event, US, Canada, and also the curling. Who knows? We'll just watch out on how these games today will go. And also later in the day is the free skiing half pipe. 4 Americans contending, including Alex Ferreira. He won back-to-back medals in 2018 and 2022, but no gold medals then. And also Nick Goper, he also won a medal in all the last 3 events. Again, no gold medal, so let's see whether they manage this time, John.
Yeah, we're pulling for them. Okay, so we head into the final weekends. We have to look at the medal count. The U.S. has 27 medals in Milan right now. I have to imagine it's Italy. Pasta, is that perhaps the secret to Team USA's success, Claudio?
Well, some say it could be the secret because Italian pasta is not only delicious, it also provides athletes with the carbs they need to fuel their performance. And what has more carbs than carbonara, even though, of course, this typical Italian dish may not be so Italian after all.
Here at the Winter Olympics in Italy, around 1,300 pounds of pasta are served every day to athletes. And they seem to love it. But pasta is not only a delicious Italian dish, it's also considered a carbohydrate-rich staple to fuel performance. As this restaurant here in Milan puts it, fresh pasta, cool rides, carbs before curves.
And my favorite, eat pasta, ski fasta. But there is a classic Italian pasta that some say was invented by Americans, carbonara.
Of course, happens every time that American tourists and American friends come and claim they invented the carbonara recipe. We think it could be true.
For years now, some Italian food historians have claimed carbonara was invented during World War II, when American soldiers had local cooks prepare a meal using their rations of bacon and eggs. A claim Italians found difficult to digest. But at the beginning of February, a Dutch journalist discovered that carbonara was mentioned in an article published in a newspaper in 1939. Does this prove once and for all that carbonara was invented before American soldiers arrived in Italy?
And so he says,
we posed the question to Eleonora Cozzella, who wrote a book called The Perfect Carbonara.
Eleonora, so the million calories question, is carbonara Italian or American?
Questa nuova scoperta potrebbe dimostrare esattamente questo, anche se abbiamo solo una citazione, quindi io vorrei fare ulteriori approfondimenti. Vengono citati ma non si capisce che cosa c'è dentro.
The only thing everyone seems to agree on is that carbonara is delicious, regardless of where it comes from.
Well, I guess, Joe, that the quest for the origins of carbonara will remain, well, food for thought. Joe?
And you will keep researching it, Claudio. You will not let this go until you talk to every carbonara expert to answer that million-calorie question. Love that. All right. Claudio, thank you so much. Now, this morning, we're hearing from all 3 of the Blade Angels, not just gold medalist Alyssa Liu, but also Amber Glenn and Isabeau Levito. All 3 hit the ice in the free skate yesterday, making headlines not only for their performances, but also their incredible friendship. The Blade Angels joined today earlier this morning to reflect on their experience at these Winter Games. Take a listen.
Guys, it's so good to see you. Let's start with you, Alyssa. First of all, you got gold draped around your neck. I was just imagining what kind of a night's sleep you had. You used your superpower on the ice. It was J-O-Y, joy. Tell us what it feels like this morning.
I mean, I'm still in yesterday, to be honest. Busy day since the performance, but I'm still there, and I still feel the hype of the arena, and it was a dream.
Amber, Glenn, let me bring you into this conversation here because, you know, we've always known you're a fighter. You go from 13th and you rocket to 5th place yesterday after that free skate. What changed? What did you say to yourself?
Honestly, not much. It was just one small mistake in the short program that left me down in 13th, and I just approached the skate with the mindset of enjoying it and doing what I do every day, and I'm really glad that I was able to have that Olympic moment.
Isabeau, it was so fun watching you. You've had an incredible Olympic run. You are an Olympian. I love Dorothy Hamill described you as the Audrey Hepburn on the ice. What did it feel like for you to know as you leave here that you are an Olympian?
I feel very filled with joy. I had a mistake, but I feel happy with how I skated in general, and it was been a great experience and something I will still cherish.
All right, what's the first thing you guys are going to do when you get home, ladies?
Sleep.
I can believe it.
Wait, Alyssa, let me just say one last thing, because I think you broke a mold on another thing. You know when you're warming up on the ice and it's almost time to go and everyone's like, get in the zone, put your headphones in. You were like waving at your family who was up in the stands. You were just there all the way. So I think you might have actually rewritten the playbook for what athletes can do. And watching you with your family at the end there was another one of those beautiful, beautiful moments.
Thanks to our friends at Today for that interview. Remember, you can catch the last few days of the Olympic action on Primetime in Milan with host Mike Tirico starting at 8 p.m. Eastern on NBC or streaming on Peacock. Coming up, we are remembering actor Eric Dane this morning, the Grey's Anatomy heartthrob gone at age 53. More on his battle with ALS and the tributes pouring in to the television doc known affectionately as McSteamy. That's next. We're back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with who will be delivering the Democratic response to President Trump's State of the Union address on Tuesday. NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen joins us with this and more. John, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Abigail Spanberger is going to give the official Democratic response to President Trump's State of the Union address next week. Democrats say the newly elected Virginia governor's relentless focus on affordability will provide the contrast that they want with Trump. But winning the role of chief responder has been a mixed blessing for rising political stars. The president, no matter who it is, tends to be a tough act to follow. And that's no different with Donald Trump. Many of the response speeches have been largely forgettable. But 4 men who went on to be president did give the opposition party speech earlier in their careers: Gerald Ford, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Joe Biden. Another high-profile Democrat is turning lemons into lemonade in Texas. James Tallarico said he raised $2.5 million in 24 hours for his Senate campaign after CBS refused to air his interview with the Late Show host Stephen Colbert. So they uploaded the interview to YouTube, where it's been viewed more than 7 million times. That Texas Senate race is getting pretty intense with the March 3rd primaries fast approaching. Tallarico, he's in a tough battle with Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett for the Democratic nod. And on the other side, 4-time incumbent John Cornyn is in the fight of his life just to win the GOP nomination again. Here in Washington, Donald Trump's White House ballroom danced one step closer to reality on Thursday. The U.S. Commission on Fine Arts approved the design for the ballroom and the East Wing of the White House. That's no surprise because the commission's members were appointed by Trump after he fired their predecessors in October. Back to you, Joe.
All right, John, thank you so much. Coming up, you could call it a bit of a sticky situation. 2 sultans of sweet pitted against each other, while one Reese's heir is now accusing bitter rival Hershey of souring on customers, all while putting profit over its products. We'll explain next. We're back with a controversy that's putting two iconic candy brands at odds. The grandson of the Reese's Cup inventor is accusing Hershey of tarnishing the taste of the brand's peanut butter cups by shifting to cheaper ingredients. Our chief consumer investigative correspondent, News Now anchor Vicki Nguyen, explains.
A bitter taste in the world of chocolate. Brad Reese, the grandson of the inventor of the iconic Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, posting an open letter to Hershey on LinkedIn, saying it is quietly replacing the very ingredients that built Reese's trust in the first place. Some experts say it has to do with cost. The price of cocoa skyrocketed over the past 2 years due to climate impacts in West Africa. And that caused some brands to swap in different ingredients. Now Reese telling the AP he recently threw out a bag of Reese's Valentine's Day mini hearts after seeing the company describe the treat as made with, quote, peanut butter cream and covered in chocolate candy. Hershey responding to Reese's criticism, saying in a statement in part, our iconic Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are made the same way they always have been, starting with roasting fresh peanuts to make our unique, one-of-a-kind peanut butter that is then combined with milk chocolate. Adding they do make recipe adjustments for new products and innovations without addressing the mini hearts directly. Consumers broadly are starting to notice some changes in the chocolates they're buying.
Chocolate candy that we used to eat growing up just doesn't taste the same.
Rich Hartel, a professor of food science, says some brands are turning to less expensive vegetable oils and swapping out cocoa for more sugar when we spoke to him at the end of last year.
What are some common ways manufacturers cut costs?
Cocoa butter is probably the most expensive component in chocolate. So if you can replace some of the cocoa butter with a different, cheaper fat, then you're saving money.
Without cocoa, candy can't be called chocolate under FDA rules. What you may see on packages now instead, products with labels like chocolate flavor, chocolate taste, or chocolate-y. Cocoa prices have come back down this year, but just like at the gas pump, companies are often quick to raise prices due to a shortage in raw ingredients and slower to lower them. Retail sales for chocolate were up in 2025, mostly due to price increases, as the number of individual products consumers bought was actually down.
It does not taste the same, and I don't know what has happened.
Changes that may have Americans looking for other ways to satisfy their sweet tooth. Vicki Nguyen, NBC News.
More money news now for you, including a massive billion-dollar buy-in that could soon be coming from one tech titan to another. NBC News business and economy reporter Allie Canal has your Money Minute. Allie, good morning.
Good morning. That's right. CNBC reports chip giant NVIDIA is in talks to invest up to $30 billion into ChatGPT maker OpenAI. Now, this is all part of a funding round that could value the AI startup at $730 billion, and that's before the new money even comes in. This latest investment is reportedly separate from a $100 billion infrastructure framework that NVIDIA and OpenAI announced last fall. An NVIDIA spokesperson declined to comment when asked by NBC News. OpenAI has yet to respond. And a quick cyber warning. The FBI says ATM jackpotting attacks are surging, with more than 700 hits last year and at least $20 million stolen. Now, hackers are using malware and physical access to make machines spit out cash. The bottom line, they're hitting the ATM itself, not your account, and the FBI says it can happen in just minutes. Meanwhile, AI is coming to your living room. YouTube is expanding its conversational AI tool to TVs and streaming devices, which basically means you can ask questions about a video while you're watching and without leaving the app. It's an experiment for a limited group of users for now, but it shows that the new battlefield for AI is the biggest screen in the house. So, Joe, lots of developments on the AI front. I am looking forward to one day being able to just talk into my remote, tell YouTube where I want to go. I mean, it's making it very easy for the consumer.
It is, and we're going to continue the AI conversation right now, Allie, so thank you for that. Overseas, India is hosting the Artificial Intelligence Impact Summit. The annual conference brings together leaders and top executives from some of the world's biggest AI firms. That includes OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic. This year, though, first time the summit's taking place in a developing country. It's a pivotal moment for India since the country has become an emerging hotspot for big tech. Companies like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon are investing $68 billion to build AI infrastructure in the country through 2030. NBC News AI fellow Jared Perlow joins me now with more on this global summit. Jared, good morning. So, over the last few years, we've seen AI growth and development largely concentrated U.S., Europe, China. So why choose India then to host this summit?
Well, so I think people are realizing, AI may be the most popular technology today. Why not host this summit in the most populous country? India, home to 1.5 billion people and one of the world's largest AI markets. So after the U.S., ChatGPT, which has around 800 million users weekly in the world, 100 million of those are in India. Claude from Anthropic, their second most popular country, is in India. But I think AI leaders and world leaders realize that if this technology is sweeping the world, then it's important to involve people and perspectives from all over the world, from developing countries like India. So I think that's kind of one of the reasons they selected India as this fourth summit. This series has been going on for 4 years. Summit is very exciting. They have 3 main themes and 7 sub-themes, which they're calling chakras, a word from Hindi. And those sub-themes touch on issues like human capital, safe and trusted AI, AI for economic development, and social good. And we can think about this summit as kind of like the Super Bowl meets United Nations. So as fun as that sounds. Yeah. So there are world leaders there, but there's also 250,000 attendees, everyone from rank and file developers to people who just want to get in on the action. So it's kind of like trade fair mixed with academic summit.
Let's talk about some of those world leaders, because we're talking about the UN Secretary General, France's president, India's prime minister. Why is it we're seeing this sort of geopolitical tech crossover, as you'd put it, the UN meets the Super Bowl here?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's some aspect, I think, of Met Gala here, too, to throw in a third event. Right. Kind of a great place to kind of see and be seen, you know, to rub shoulders with the global elites, kind of the Davos, where these sorts of deals are being made. But I think a lot of people realize that AI is becoming increasingly important and intertwined in many aspects of daily life. And for political leaders, they see, potentially the next 5-10 years of economic growth really being reliant and dependent on investment in AI. And so that's where we see this fusion with the business world. So that's true for American companies. OpenAI announced new partnerships with Tata, which is an Indian company, same for Anthropic, and Infosys, another big Indian company. But the same thing is happening domestically for India, too. So Mukesh Ambani, who's the wealthiest man in Asia, announced $100 billion in data center build out through 2035. I don't know if you have money like that lying around, but certainly I think the business and tech worlds are kind of fusing from all sides.
Let's focus on one thing you mentioned, which is the economic development, social good. I mean, when it comes to healthcare, education, AI can really make a difference for people who maybe don't have great access to those things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and there's lots of news coming out on that front today, it being the first summit in a developing country. So, we have somewhat regular access to doctors' offices or education here in the U.S., but you can think about for people, say, living in small rural villages in India. Back when I was a researcher in India, some schools were shut for 3 out of the 5 days a week simply because there weren't enough teachers to go around. Now, if I suddenly had some sort of personalized AI assistant in my pocket or on a tablet, that could have huge benefits for my educational development. I think people are really excited about that.
No doubt. All right, Jared Perlow, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
All right, let's get back to the Olympics. The Milan Cortina Games have been jam-packed with action, but some people are already looking forward to the potential new sports that could make their Olympic debut at the French Alps in 2030. Our Gotti Schwartz tried out one of those contenders.
If you're skiing through the Italian Alps,
wow! Look at that! That is a beautiful piece of ice.
You might just find someone looking to put your expedition on ice. Deep in the Dolomites, these guys are reaching new heights as they scale walls of water frozen in time. This is ice climbing, a sport where athleticism meets adventure.
That is some technical climbing right there. Yikes.
I mean, this is a beautiful area to ski, and these guys are crazy.
We just had to see how hard it could be.
Straight up. Straight up, here we go.
With some coaching from my mountain guide, Mauro, I started my ascent.
Aha! Here we go. Hello, Dolomites. Hello, ice. Come on. Good. Ah! Oh! I'm almost to the cave.
I tried to keep my cool.
Woo-hoo! That's a burn right there.
For more than a century, this relatively niche sport has enthralled enthusiasts.
Take a look at this. Nice and cozy. All right, first pitch done.
Nice little warm-up.
Shall we head down? Now, ice climbing could claw its way into the Olympic spotlight.
Let's take it easy there.
It's one of several possible new sports the International Olympic Committee will consider for the 2030 program when the Games go to the French Alps. But it won't look like this. In international competition,
he's got quite a lot of experience climbing on real ice, does this man?
Athletes scale human-made courses with acrobatic flair as they try to be the fastest up an artificial ice wall.
There's a chance that in 2030, ice climbing might be an Olympic sport. What do you think about that?
Cross the finger. There's an opportunity for this sport. It's a beautiful sport.
Out in nature, ice routes are ever-changing and can be unpredictably dangerous and exhausting to climb.
It's little steps. Little steps. Okay, yeah, that's the move. This is nice and easy.
And getting to the top feels like an Olympic dream come true.
All right, this is alive. Look at that view. Wow.
No, thank you. Thanks to Gotti Schwartz for that story, but thank goodness for the people who are doing that. You can catch more of this year's Olympic action on Primetime in Milan. Host Mike Tirico starting at 8 p.m. Eastern on NBC and streaming on Peacock. All right, coming up, we finally made it to Friday. What better way to wrap up the week than not only taking in some 11th hour Olympic action, but the latest and greatest the world of Hollywood has to offer. We're going to run you through everything you simply can't miss this weekend. That's next. Finally this hour, it's Friday, which means it's time for your weekly can't miss list to look at all the movies, music, and shows you need to see and hear this weekend. Joining me this week is David Correa, entertainment correspondent and host of the Husbanter podcast. Good to have you with us. I mean, I'll just probably be watching the Olympics all weekend, but if you're not doing that, there are some other options for folks. We'll start in the theaters. How to Make a Killing. This is a dark comedy, stars Glenn Powell. I think he's getting some good reviews. The movie, maybe not so much, but what should we know about this one?
Folks should be excited about this one because we all love Glenn Powell, and he plays Beckett, who is seventh in line to potentially inherit $28 billion.
Okay. The key is seventh in line.
Seventh.
Yeah.
And the reason he's seventh is his mother was disowned from the family, so he's getting his revenge. And he plays this anti-hero, which he's said in interviews he's really excited that he gets to work to make the audience like him.
Okay.
And with the people he's going against, it's not that hard.
Okay, yeah.
They're terrible people.
A lot of unlikable people. All right. All right, let's get to Midwinter Break. Very different type of movie, sort of a sweet story, a quiet story. Takes a bit of a turn. No spoilers here, but what should we know about this one?
This one is, you're right, completely different. It is a character-driven drama. It is a couple that's been together for a very long time, and what was supposed to be this romantic getaway in Amsterdam turns into this revelation of the past, and it explores themes of loss and how to deal with a long-term relationship and aging. It is a tear-jerker. So definitely not the dark comedy that we just talked about. Something that is much more emotional, much more raw, but great performances.
Leslie Manville is in this
Yes,
one, right?
she's fantastic. Folks may remember her from Monster most recently or Back to Black a few years ago.
She's been in everything for decades.
Yeah.
All right, if you're going to stay in, we got some streaming choices for you. All 10 episodes of season 3 of the Netflix hit The Night Agent. Tell us about this.
Yes, so this just dropped. Like you said, all 10 episodes are up there. If you want to binge the whole thing, it's fantastic. Gabriel Basso is back as Peter Sutherland. He is a night agent, which is a secret division of the FBI, specifically selected by the president to look into urgent matters of national security. You're talking about espionage, assassins, dark money conspiracies, everything you expect from a show like this. And it's been a hit since it first premiered in 2023.
Sounds like a normal weekend for me. All right, 4th season of AMC's Dark Winds is out. This looks intense.
Yes, and it doesn't get as much credit as it deserves. It got 100% rating for all previous seasons on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, wow.
But I want to see it get some awards. And this season, they are a group of Navajo tribal police officers set in the 1970s. And this season, they are searching for a young girl who goes missing in LA. So they leave the reservation. They're out of their jurisdiction. But it is so culturally impactful. And its producers, George R.R. Martin and Robert Redford. So cinematography on this is incredible.
Okay, great. It's the second season of The Last Thing He Told Me. That's on Apple TV. You got Jennifer Gardner. It's based off of a forthcoming novel called The First Time I Saw Him. Tell us about this.
This one is incredible. If you were a fan of Alias back in the day, then you're definitely going to love season 2 of this. If you have not watched season 1, definitely binge it and get into season 2. It's on Apple TV Plus. New episodes drop every Friday. It comes out today. And last season, she was lost. She was confused. Her husband went missing. And this season, she's kicking butt.
As she does, as Jennifer Gardner always does. All right, we've got about 30 seconds left here, but Hilary Duff is out with new music.
Yes.
I mean, she's going on tour. She's sold out MSG and added a second night. She's having a moment here.
Oh, yeah. Luck or Something is her new album. It is very mature. In fact, one of the tracks, my favorite track so far, is called Mature.
Okay.
It is not Lizzie McGuire by any means. And you said it, the tour is starting in June. Tickets are on sale now. It's 51 stops. I am so excited for her. She is such an incredible artist, and her fans are saying she is bringing pop back to life.
Great. We're all feeling that nostalgia right now. Hilary Duff can bring it. All right, David, thank you so much. Good to have you with us. That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. But stick with us. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.